Okay, I made a first attempt at this video, but this is gonna be my second attempt. Disney, you can't take any more advice from that fucking BlackRock company anymore. Your company can't take it. Otherwise, they're gonna go bankrupt. Because here's the thing, right? All DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion cares about is everyone except white straight males like me who are born that way. I may have been born autistic, but that's not much on the DEI spectrum. I wouldn't even call it anything on it because it's more of a disability hire than diversity hire. Here's the fucking thing. I hate what Disney's done to Star Wars. I loathe it. What they did to that brand fucking made me so pissed, so mad. And you know who let them do that? Let them not respect the story George Lucas, the white straight male, made. That was so beautiful before. So that became so ugly now that George had to renounce the franchise he created. It's BlackRock. I don't think about... You hear that, Mickey? You've been listening way too much to BlackRock. Yeah. Let me tell you something about that company. I refuse to work for that company. I refuse to be hired at that company. Because that company is a DEI consulting firm that only cares about a globalist agenda to force the mark of the beast onto people. That's why I'm refusing to buy. That's why I refuse, absolutely deny myself from watching Disney movies anymore. I don't care anymore because they have genuinely stopped caring about me. Not because I'm white straight male, but because stopped caring about making good stories. They even admitted that they would rather make worse story and support a DEI agenda rather than make stories that genuinely serve a purpose. That's just corporate business thinking. You know who caused them to do that? It's BlackRock. I refuse to support that company after what they did to my favorite film franchise, Star Wars. And hearing possibilities that Nintendo might be next. That Mario might be exiled from Nintendo. Hearing that they actually ruined Call of Duty before I was old enough to play it. To the point where even the devs had to say, yeah, we screwed up. Recently in a 2025 blog post. I mean, it's to prove that they just don't care about actually making good moves. BlackRock only cares about a globalist agenda. Now, it's wave swapping. You need to be careful with that because I'd rather you wave swap in between a story and the character want to be wave swapped in the canon rather than have them wave swapped in a new adaptation that pisses people off. Because that way, it's baked in the core of the story. Transracialism. But you can't just do that without making some... It's the opposite way around for these liberals. Because they don't care about good stories. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Republican either. I hate what Trump has done. I think there's a bunch of wackos and there's no adults in the room in Trump. Don't get me wrong. I'm an independent here, but... and that's the whole reason why I voted for Kamala in 2024 and voted Trump in 2020, because I did not want Trump to come back, bite us in the ass in 2024, and look what happened. I was right all along. Trump was that petty of a person to be like, if I lose the 2020 election, I'm going to come back and bite the ass of the American public by becoming the 47th American president again. Like, are you fucking nuts? Who are even... What? We could have had a black woman. Yeah. That could have been historic, but no. We had a bunch... Yeah, I won't lie. Now that's diversity, equality, and inclusion, not diversity, equity, inclusion. Equity is bad. It actually harms everyone involved and harms the whites, harms the people who needed that stuff by giving them unrealistic standards. It's insane. No. But yeah, let's talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, not equality. Equity fucking sucks. I refuse to call myself... I'm going to tell businesses, look, if you want to hire me on the most of the time. I will try to hire myself on normal standards. But, or at least just call it a disability hire. Here's the thing that BlackRock did that made me really mad. They helped Disney ruin Star Wars by telling, and other brands like Marvel, Pixar, which was one of my personal favorites before Disney bought it up. They could have been, if they stuck with Lucasfilm would have had Toy Story. They would have had Monsters, Inc. Maybe even a Monsters, Inc. 2 Lost in Paradise already. Which we don't even have that film yet. Because they were fucking idiotic. They thought we wanted a prequel instead of a sequel. And what's this talk about a third Monsters, Inc. film? We haven't even had the second one yet. There is no Monsters, Inc. 2 Lost in Paradise. I wish there were. But this is just... Not to mention, I hated University. MU. It was such a... Not school, university in real life. That's different. I mean, Monsters U. I won't even say the name of both of them out loud because that film was that fucking cursed. It made me feel so fucking ugly inside when I watched it. It's my least favorite film ever. What we should have gotten instead, I don't think you know this, we should have had Toy Story 0. Yeah, that's what we should have had instead. Because that actually would have genuinely contributed to the story arc of Toy Story. We would have found out who Andy's father was, could have deepened the fire and the destruction of toys more because there is a scene in it having a lot more interesting. Where Woody's toys literally get tossed in where Woody's the toys of Andy's dad all get tossed in the tire except Woody. It would have been tragic, and then he died of cancer. It would have been really sad, and it would have explained why Woody acts the way he does in the original trilogy. That could have been very interesting, but now they were so stupid. They had to make the prequel to something that actually needed a sequel instead. Honestly, I would have waited to make the prequel to Monsters, Inc. until after Monsters, Inc. 3 even came out. We don't even have Monsters, Inc. 2 yet. Complete the first Monsters trilogy, okay? Complete Monsters, Inc., Monsters, Inc. 2 Lost in Paradise, and Monsters, Inc. 3. Have a plot similar to Stitchhead for 3, where the humans discover the monster world and use pitchforks to try to frickin', go into the monster world and try to blow it up. Yeah, that could be a very interesting plot, but no. We had to do a prequel, and then you are not getting even 2 or 3. Yeah, they say they're making a Monsters, Inc. 3. Because of my situation, they won't fucking make 3 even. Because 2 doesn't exist. And they made something called Work. Nobody likes that. It's not even canon. But yeah, there's no Monsters Inc. 2. Sorry. But as a toddler, I really wanted a sequel to that movie. What did they do? They fricked it all up. No wonder why Finding Marlin is my highest hype Pixar film they could ever make right now. Because Finding Marlin could genuinely be interesting. Not only that, but also Cars 4. Yeah, I'll say it. I'd rather see Cars 4. I would rather have seen a fourth installment to the Cars franchise than see Monsters U. Because that was such a bad story. But why did they make that story? Because of BlackRock enforcing DEI standards, testing the waters with it. Not only that, but testing the waters with all the plot holes. I think you realize this. They were supposed to tease each other since the 4th and 5th grade. There was a scene they cut out where they do that and forget about each other until college. And they cut that out, creating a giant plot holing the whole story up. Now, if you have to beg for a director's cut for that story. That they at least, in a re-release of that film, after 3, let that part in. At least fix it. But yeah. And then you've got, what they did to Toy Story after 3. I'll get it. I admit, 3 was a pretty perfect ending. But you know what would have made it more perfect? Is if the toys went into the attic. Because then we would have gone to 4 and 5 that actually was interesting. Not Forky and not Lily Pad. Not whatever the hell our version of 4 and 5 was. Where they completely ditched the real story arcs of Toy Story. And going against its moral messaging in the first 3 films. To the point where I refuse to accept anything after the original trilogy can. And you know what could have also been more interesting? I know this would not have been a perfect ending. The toys dying in the incinerator. I would have preferred that over them being given to some girl who has no connection over them. So that way they can use it for infinite sequel bait. That's what's happening with Toy Story. That's all that's happening. Infinite sequel bait. Thanks to Bonnie getting the toys. Continuing as long as it makes money. And that's a problem. Because here's the thing, right? When you put profit over good storytelling, people start to notice. You know how you profit with art? Or creative art, or inter-art, like with video games even? Which is more complex. Not only do you have to have the story be good. A. B. You have the game design be good. And not have it riddled with bugs and glitches that break the game. But it's not... You have to make sure your inner art in for video games, or board games, or your art... For your freaking game, for your movies, or your book, anime, or cartoons, or TV show, or books even. If it's literal, if it's like literary art. That's what books are, they're literary art. Whereas normal art is anything that has visuals, anything that's playable is inner art. That includes VR, board games, and normal video games. I'm still forming my opinion, but I think my opinion is finally formed. Video games are interactive art, inner art, which is more higher than normal art. Which is why I said video games could be more than art, but they're not art necessarily. Because they are art. That was something I believed back in 2023. But yeah, and not only that, but BlackRock's an infiltrated video game company. And they have completely decimated those studios, which saddens me. Because that means we may never get that 3D Rayman and Legend/Origin style game after Beyond Good and Evil 2. But yeah, BlackRock only cares about diversity, equity, and inclusion, not diversity, equality, and inclusion. I care about equality, not equity. I have a video I'm going to back up from Turtle Twin that explains what the difference between equity and equality. I'm going to find that video from that series, back it up, and show it to you. But yeah, here's the thing you gotta realize. I don't actually care about what they did to Star Wars, Toy Story after the original trilogy. I think if Lucas still made Toy Story, we could have just gotten the normal version for all timelines, not the burning ending, which I would have preferred over the Bonnie ending and donation ending even. But apparently, they're too stupid to make a good-ass story. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. Until it was too late. And now you have them resorting to using AI to fire human workers at those companies, saying, which I never thought AI would replace creative jobs. But lo and behold, here we are. Zootopia 2 was the last Disney film to not use AI. That was a good one to end it off with. You know why? Because it was their first good film in 9 years after Moana 1. Yeah, not even Moana 2 was as good. Because I look, and for me, maybe it'll be a guilty pleasure that I like Moana 2. But I'll admit it has its flaws compared to the first one, which was a lot better. Okay, if it's a sequel to an already good story that they didn't want to make, fine. You can enjoy it as a guilty pleasure. But depending on what they do with it. Zootopia 2 they did want to make from the very first movie. And that's why the movie was so dang good. Problem, that may be the last Disney film they release before Disney gets into AI. And that the first one that they ever did recently was Hoppers at Pixar. My absolute and utter disappointment is here. And BlackRock is also a huge supporter of replacing human artists with AI. Instead of using equality and include DE, diversity, equality, inclusion, they're proponent diversity, equity, inclusion, firing all white male workers. Look, you gotta be equal here. Can't just prioritize one race or being over another. You know? There's a difference between diversity, equality, inclusion, and diversity, equity, inclusion. I'll explain why in another video. But basically, it's supposed to do something about prioritizing diverse people instead of non-diverse people. Instead of treating them all equally and giving them all equal opportunity to go into the workspace. Yeah. BlackRock, you have basically screwed up Star Wars. And what's worse, after the tremendous success of the MCU, there was a few films after it that did pretty well. Spider-Man No Way Home, Brand New Day. Guardians 3, Doctor Strange 2 is one I kind of disagree with people on, believe it or not. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. But other than that, even though we do have those films, we don't have. It kind of messed up with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Weird movie, I know. But then you got the Marvels. Oh my gosh. And you got Wonder Man? I guess Wonder Man's alright. He's a good guy. Character. Then you got Deadpool Wolverine, which was obviously goated. Because Fox made it. Fox has actually cared about the storytelling. And doesn't like having to put up with Disney's BS under their division, which is why I propose Fox consumes Disney, turns Disney Plus into Fox Plus one day, and actually does a decent job. Had a dream it would happen, but only after Gravity Falls series season 2 and after this Gravity Falls sequel and prequel shows happen. Which means season 3 has to happen though. And will happen for me. Man, that did happen in a dream. Once. Not to mention, I dreamed of a new franchise overtaking Star Wars, and it's a franchise in the dream that looked eerily similar to Dune. Meh, 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 meh. All the spice. Paul Atreides. Yeah, because they have a plan for 9 Dune films based off the 6 Dune books, turning 3 of the 6 Dune books into 2-parters. Dune Part 3 is actually Dune Messiah. Okay? Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 is Dune. I've seen Dune Part 1 and Part 2. You guys will freaking love it. It is incredible. And yes, it was actually dubbed by, ironically made by a DEI company, Warner Bros. So even they were more competent than them. So they got bought up by Paramount. But yeah. Paramount is gonna own Harry Potter. The Death Eaters are raping the children. I don't want to think about, like, You're a Wizard, Harry Part 2. You're a wizard, Harry, now deal with it. Hagrid says. They're gonna own Lord of the Rings. They're gonna own, what else? Sinners, the newest film that's getting parodied by Scary Movie 6. Believe it or not. They're gonna own both Harry and Lord of the Rings, Dune. They're gonna own Game of Thrones. They're gonna own, they're gonna freaking own the rights to Final Space. Yeesh. Olin Rogers, we gotta talk about that one. It's a possibility when Sony buys up Paramount. Not to mention, when Sony buys Paramount up, they're gonna be able to rival Disney. It'll be the Genesis does what Disney don't. It'll be the Sony Genesis does what Disney won't. Yeah, say it to me. Sony Pictures Genesis does what Disney won't. Let me repeat that. Sony Pictures Genesis does what Disney won't. Yeah. Other than that, BlackRock, I don't trust you. My company won't hire you. We'll use diversity, equality, inclusion, not equity. Okay, equity is dangerous. Okay? But I have very interesting views that are pretty moderate. I don't necessarily align myself with the left or the right. But I won't lie. I'm going to make a video one of these days talking about my views on Trump and why I think he's stirring up the nation by going to war with Iran and literally saying, tariffing everyone with huge ass tariffs that, I don't even want to republish the video, but I might have to. I might. I mean, 100% tariff on movies filmed outside of the US. That means it has to make twice as much if you film it outside. And Disney will film all of their films outside the US from now on. Because they're crazy. Oh my gosh. Dude. But yeah, I'm almost at the grocery store. Apparently, I don't think Disney has done a good enough job with their movies. Not thanks to BlackRock. Not just thanks to BlackRock. I mean, not just thanks to BlackRock, because they themselves have become crazy control freaks. And now, I fear the next thing they're going to ruin is Nintendo. The company buying Super Mario. What's going to happen? Disney's going to buy Nintendo under BlackRock's control. Just like they did with Star Wars. They're going to say, Mario, you're cast out of Nintendo. So is all the Super Smash Bros. IP. Using a March 31st IRL event. They're going to have to re-release all those games for a new audience. I'm going to be one of the only audience, if not the only, who makes it over to the new version of Smash Bros. And Disney's MCU properties will be way worse. Trust me. Trust me on this one. Amazonians does not sound that great. It's just since, you know, you want comfort food games. Super Smash Bros. Is more comfort foody because most of their games don't really have that many alternate endings. It's like 6 or 5. You know, that's the thing. You kind of have to look up how to not get that alternate ending every time you do. But yeah, I'm worried because they're going to screw it all up. I'm just genuinely being like, oh my gosh, Disney. This is a mess of a company now.
Can I get a manager to the service desk? Manager to the service desk. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a manager to the service desk. Other than that, you know what? Screw it. I might as well shop. Because my parents are coming home. Hayes is picking up Mom. Thinking Hayes might as well get some food for us. But now, yeah. Other than that, I'm not working for BlackRock. I'm going to let my entertainment company be controlled by BlackRock. I was actually thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. On the side of that, I would be doing a cybersecurity job after I do a normal job at home. Yeah. Other than that, Sonic 4 is coming out March next year. Whole year away. Can't wait. May actually end up seeing it. Other than that, yep. Now what am I getting here? I'm getting some really interesting Easter candy. Particularly these, 2 of these, 4 of these, and 2 of these. Yoshi's. Yoshi! Yeah. Anyways, I want Mario to at least do a good job still after Smash Bros. No longer on my Nintendo. I expect them to because I know they've done a good job in the past. But that might... Look, we just gotta make it to 2028. Maybe. Maybe sooner. But yeah, or maybe even later. Who knows? I will say this. I'm gonna have to do something here. Feastables. Look, I know I typically don't like aligning myself with Hinduism. Or the India world, right? Why am I doing it? Why have I been chosen? Because apparently their standards of actual what's appropriate and what's not actually aligns with my standards. Even though the religion is freaky as all hell. Not gonna lie, Shiva is a pretty terrifying character. I'm terrified of her. She's literally the destroyer, yet she's so kind at some points, but at the same time, yeah, Hindu myths can be pretty terrifying. Other than that, you're fine. I'll take this one. Other than that, but I will agree to it only under one condition. Disney, Disneyland, Denmark, UK, India, whatever. I don't care. Only agree to it under one condition. Disney at least learns how to make good movies again by the time Cars 4 comes out. Hoppers is a good movie, I heard, but it used AI, so I don't know. Maybe I'll still see it, maybe not. I don't know. Other than that, what am I doing here? Looking for cakey noses. cakes. And look, it's another one of those sprinkle cakes. What are these? $6. Really delicious, by the way. I might get another one of these just because I liked them the first time. But yeah. Yeah, what am I saying here? I'm past over my time.